Yeah, and we have the young gun, Brodie Spurlock, of course, famously winning, I believe it was a Battle Hardened on the back of Viserai.
I'm a big fan of this kid, Brian. And I say kid because, I'm twice his age, maybe I think more, actually.
Everyone's a kid to us, Tannen.
Yeah. And he's just here's the thing. I'm sure Patrick Nelson's a great guy. It's going to be hard for me not to root for Brodie a little bit here. Everything that I've ever interacted with this kid, everything I've heard about this kid, super respectful. Just a great head on shoulders, great player, obviously. We've seen him on camera. Unfortunately, he lost his future match on camera yesterday, so trying to redeem that here today.
Yeah, that was his only loss yesterday, 6-1. Beautiful start for
he
Brodie.
won a backup match. He's like, guys, you couldn't switch that around for me yesterday. But absolute pleasure to be around. Great player. Would love to see him really start to get his name here a little more firmly in the minds of everybody in Flesh and Blood.
Absolutely.
This weekend, and you know what? He's doing a very good job of it. He's got a FAB deck against a Dromai deck here, and this is one of the more interesting matchups in this limited format because these games go really quick or they could go pretty long. It just depends on the build of the Dromai deck.
Yeah, I am not sure how good Patrick Nelson's deck is. There were many Dromais, I believe. I believe the breakdown is 4 5s, 3 Dromais, 1 Icelander. You do not want to be the third Dromai. It is a problem position to be in. And I also will say, I only get to take a quick look at the decks as I walk around, but there was a moment when Patrick was reviewing his picks. I actually wasn't sure if he was Dromai or FAB, which tells me that there just wasn't a hard commitment, kind of got stuck between two heroes possibly. So I'm not sure how good Patrick's deck is. We'll see. I could be wrong. Thus far, I've seen a lot of generic cards in Patrick's opening hands.
Yeah, that's a very interesting turn one from Patrick here. He's going to go ahead and sink a bunch of cards into his Miter, targeting the opponent's weapon that's not attacking because he just wants to filter cards out of his hand and not let Brodie filter cards out of his.
Yeah, a heads-up play one we see quite often in this format. You have to be able to get value out of that Helios Miter. You need to get that Ash train rolling.
Speaking of getting that train rolling, we got a Ronin Renegade from Brodie here. Natural go again, free attack. These are the bread and butter of the FAB decks. These fill in between the really good attacks of good on hits and stuff, but these are so impactful and so important in your deck.
Speaking of impactful, that's Searing Emberblade. Fallen out of favor and constructed seemingly for the time being. Kodachi is making their return, but still a
we keep going back and forth between the two.
Yeah, I think that'll happen. I mean, it's metagame dependent, like everything in Flesh and Blood. There's a time for every Flesh and Blood card, as we saw with Wounded Bull's dominant return to the constructed scene.
As a okay Guardian player, like I do love Oldhim, I don't like seeing Kodachis on the other side of the board too often.
Yeah, tough scenario to deal with. And it looks like Patrick just going to soak some damage here.
Is this nice a flex?
Follow-up. Yeah, it is a flex. Sick flex, bro. And it just coming in with a little bit of damage.
I see a flex to the other side. We got flexes on both sides of the board here. All right.
Yeah, it seemed like Patrick was looking to soak some damage here, maybe put a turn together, but flex has to leave you questioning that a little bit.
And this is another thing I think I wanted to point out a little bit about Limited in this set. And you've seen a lot of the players that we've watched draft and we've seen their decks afterwards. You see tons of generics. You keep talking about this. You see a lot of generics in Patrick's deck. We see a bunch, so far. We see at least one from Brodie here. And I think it shows the power of this draft format that you need to be taking the generics maybe a little bit higher than you were in the past just to make sure that deck fills out. And especially the ones that have high enough powers to be poppers against Dromai, they can be very impactful. And I was not picking them high enough when I first started drafting this format. And Patrick's going to go ahead and just take all the damage down to 11, maybe sensing he needs to really get something going on this turn. It really gets, and this is a
trade-in.
This is a trade-in, yeah.
From
Arsenal.
Yep. That's how you want to play this one. Present a little damage, get a little filtering for your hand. Has go again if played from Arsenal. So
another role-playing generic.
A lot of generic action thus far from Patrick's side. Looks like chose not to use the filtering, which tells you the hand's probably pretty good. Time for Doombreaker Senpai.
Yeah, pitching a Brother in Arms, a card that is skyrocketed in my pick order.
Agree, and I think it's just a great constructed card too, quite frankly. I think we're going to see a lot more of that as time goes on.
Very unassuming card when we saw it on the spoiler, and my friends and I, we started having some talks about it. I was like, is this one, and they're like, maybe. Is this one a good one? They're like, maybe. We'll have to see. You've seen it pop up in some Oldhim lists. We've seen it in Limited a lot.
Yeah, saw it in Michael Hamilton's
Icelander decks, yeah, but Hamilton's a madman.
I was playing this card when I first was exposed to this card. I was playing it everywhere. Every defensive deck I built, it's just so good at filling out your
especially
defensive turns.
Blue.
Yeah, if you spend resources on your opponent's turn, it's just a really good resource card.
Looks like this is a game where the players have decided not to do a lot of blocking
No,
between
that's
the two of them.
often how these games go, at least early. Things can change as we get later into the game.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I talked about this. There's a lot of all-in early, like here's my hand. Tell me how much you're taking of it. And then there's the, we're going to slow down and grind it out here at the end.
And time for another sick flex. Players trading flexes back and forth.
Who do you think would have the better flex? I think Brodie just be like, I'm 16 or whatever. You're like, I'm younger than you are, and I'm here.
Oh, anyone who has that kind of youth is, at least as in terms of flexing against me, that's the biggest flex you can make.
It's so annoying, right?
You're just like, oh, I'm not about to die, unlike you, and that's really, really disconcerting.
I'm not the end of my days.
Yeah. And Brodie just going to go ahead and take this flex damage.
Brian really fingering his mortality here early this morning.
Yeah, I always like to start the stream off with a little bit of existential dread. I think everyone tunes in for that. You know?
Is that a card the next set?
It should be. It should
Existential
be.
dread.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I like that.
I want to make that one actually.
We're going to keep with the no block theme go here. Brodie down to 7. He's going to start off with another one of those Ronin Renegades.
Yeah, big grip here for Brodie. We got 4 cards in hand, 1 in arsenal, starting off with a Ronin Renegade, so things are going well. Have that chain link working. Could be an explosive turn from Brodie.
The scary thing about FAB, right, when they have the 4-card hands plus the arsenal, you're probably getting attacked at the least is like, I think the floor is like 3.5 times.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be upwards of 5.
I would agree with that assessment. And oftentimes, I mean, Patrick could devote the entire hand to defense here and still die. That's on the table.
These FAB decks are scary. You can see why Brodie was, you're starting to see why Brodie wasn't blocking here. He's like, look, my deck's probably going to be able to output a little more damage than yours. And it looks like, look, we're going to keep no blocking here. So it's going to be Patrick down to 8.
Yeah, that's going to be risky. Engulfing Flame Wave yellow, though, I believe. So a big difference in damage output there. Still could demand a block. This is a scary card. Scary, scary card because you never know what's lurking on the top of the deck.
Patrick really consulting his hand here.
Yeah, still a break point on that yellow Engulfing Flame Wave, by the way. 4 damage represented towards Patrick, and that's what makes this yellow pretty acceptable as far as yellow goes in 5.
I'll have a talk with the youngin after this match. Be like, Brodie, I love you. You got to put dice on your cards.
Yeah, that's his one flaw.
Because he definitely doesn't have another one.
2 block here, strategic planning, going to let 2 damage through, and that means we are going to get the trigger here. Is it a hit? Let's see.
It
is. Yeah, Brand with Cinderclaw, that's just going to come off the top, and that means this chain has gotten even wider. And now if you're Patrick, I think you need to shift into full defensive mode.
All the cards in my hand are I don't consider them cards anymore. They are just, I'm looking at the defensive value now.
Correct.
If I'm Patrick.
Correct.
They no longer have text.
There's just too much potential damage represented here, especially with Heat Wave ready to go. You leave yourself exposed. Now every Phoenix Flame from the bin represents 2 damage. That's just such a dangerous place to be in.
And the one good thing for Patrick is there's only 1 single resource floating from here. If there were 2, this turn would be infinitely tougher because you'd be threatening.
Well, here's the problem, Tannen. There's a sash ready to go. So it's a virtual 2. And I think Brodie is going to be able to find that Searing Emberblade activation should he want it. It looks like it's time for a little bit of quelling on the back of that Silken form.
Yeah, so this is a way to, I actually really think I underrated Quell. A lot of people did early in this format. It's a way to kind of spread out your blocks. Like, let's say you have a blue that only blocks for 2. Well, that can sometimes actually stop 3 damage with Quell against FAB.
And so there was a Quell here on this Phoenix Flame. Brodie took the opportunity to go ahead and activate the Heat Wave. So now it's representing an additional point of damage. Still a resource available, still Sash available. Looks like we have another attack here. Only 1 resource spent for that Dune Runner Outlaw.
There's still a card in the arsenal here, and there's a bunch of really, really scary ones behind this as well. If anything, it has Ruptures behind this, or just any of the big attacks that have a break point.
That's the fear right now. What is in that arsenal? Is it like something like a Lava Burst or a Blaze Headlong that could just end this game? Dust Runner Outlaw, huge amount of threat here. 4 damage represented. That is lethal, so you know there's a block coming, or a Quell.
And this is the worst part about Patrick is, for poor Patrick is he can block and survive here, but at what number and how many cards he's going to have left?
Yeah, no cards in
the
hand,
going to be
you're
low.
Probably dead anyway.
Yeah.
So this is what FAB does to you.
This is an amazing turn for Brodie.
Look
this
how
is
wide that combat chain is.
Yeah.
5
also,
links.
Hitting the Brand with Cyndaquil off the top was just the chef's kiss.
Yep, nice 0, no resources invested. think exactly what Brodie was looking for there. I mean, maybe red, if you were able to rewrite it. That's about it. But still a very happy scenario. And this is a pose I take often when I'm facing fives. You see Patrick.
Hand on forehead.
Hand on forehead.
More existential dread.
Yeah, just shaking my head. What do I do here? And it looks like Patrick has chosen to fall to 1. And now it's time to go ahead and pop that sash, gets a resource.
And this is...
Yeah, breaking point. And that's a huge, huge Draconic attack.
It's going to be a double block here from Patrick.
Yeah, stays alive. I mean, that's big. Get another turn. But are you in a good position to do anything? Absolutely not.
Yeah, he's at 1 here, unfortunately. We talked about how dangerous that can be against the FI decks. So scary for Patrick to be sitting here. Any Phoenix Flame represents a card from your hand, and I think I see a very angry hand from Brodie here. I see a Brand with Cinder Claw. I see another free attack. I see a Lava Burst.
Yeah, this looks like a very non-resource dependent hand that could go quite wide here. Revive those Phoenix Flames. Brodie says sure.
Yeah, you got to go ahead and take the 1 from
Ashley.
the... yeah, no, right? Oh, you attacked for 1. I attacked for 30 last turn, bro. All right, it looks like we're going to lead off of that Brand with Cinder Claw. I believe that's a red.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so this is an attack for 3.
Yeah, ultimately it doesn't matter. It has to be blocked. I guess whether you block with a 3 or block with a 2 does matter, but... And I see Patrick maybe pulling 2 cards. No, okay. If he had to block with 2 cards, that's it.
Yeah, it would just be the start of the end.
Does have the 3 block available.
It looks like a Cinnapi is going to come out and block. Another attack for 3 from Brodie here. Resources floating.
Yeah, and I think we're just going to see some rupturing at the end of this chain, and I do not think Patrick is long for this world, because I think that's a Lava Burst as the last card, and if it's a 0-5,
he's got a Phoenix Flame in his hand too. This is a no-block card, so any attack here is actually just going to be good enough.
The Phoenix Flame's good enough, but it was going to get much worse from this point, and that's fine in a nutshell. That gets the handshake, and yeah, Lava Burst. Still had all these, bro.